All right, let's get into it. We're about to dive into a collection of ancient moral tales that took the idea of family duty to some pretty incredible and honestly kinda shocking extremes.
I mean, really think about it. How far would you actually go for your parents? We all have an answer, right? You'd help them out, you'd care for them. It's pretty fundamental.
But what if being a good son or daughter meant dealing with magic? Or what if it meant self-sacrifice on a whole other level? Maybe even choosing between your parent and your own child? Well, hundreds of years ago, a super popular collection of stories laid out exactly that.
That collection is called the 24 Filial Exemplars, or Niju in Japan. Now, these are originally Chinese stories that just became wildly popular in Japan. And their whole point was to teach this core Confucian virtue called filial piety, basically how to show ultimate respect and loyalty to your parents. So before we get to the really wild stuff, let's just lay the groundwork. We need to understand what being a good child even meant in the world of these stories. At its heart, filial piety is something we can all pretty much get behind. It's about deep respect, listening to your folks, and taking care of them. The Niju Shiko actually starts with examples that, while pretty intense, are still grounded in that kind of recognizable care. Okay, so get this. Emperor Bun of the Han Dynasty. This guy is literally the ruler of an empire, but he makes it a personal duty to taste every single dose of his mother's medicine before she does. It wasn't just about safety, it was this huge act of personal service. It showed that his devotion was way more important than his royal status. And then there's the young Okyo. In the dead of winter, he would actually go and lie in his father's cold bed just to warm it up with his own body heat. And in the summer, he'd sit there and fan his father's pillow to make sure it was cool. Total dedication. So you see the pattern here, right? These first stories are all about sacrificing your own comfort for your parents' well-being. It's extreme, for sure, but it's still happening in the real world. For now, anyway. Okay, this is where things start to escalate. The stories take a sharp turn into the supernatural because this kind of devotion, they suggest, does not go unnoticed by the heavens. So what happens when your sick, elderly parent wants something completely impossible? Like a food that's totally out of season. You just can't get it. Well, for the people reading these tales, this is where your devotion is really put to the test. But it's also where the stories give you this amazing promise. Even when you can't do it alone, the cosmos has your back. And this is where you start to see this incredible cosmic formula play out. Step 1, a parent has an impossible desire. Step 2, the child performs an extreme act of devotion trying to fulfill it. Step 3, that act literally moves heaven and a miracle happens. It's like a transaction. Your piety is the currency and heaven always pays up. So let me introduce you to Moso. His mom is sick, and in the middle of a freezing winter, she gets a craving for bamboo shoot soup. I mean, come on, that's impossible. But Moso is a good son, so he goes out to the frozen bamboo grove anyway. He's out there totally distraught that he can't get his mom what she wants, and he just starts weeping. And at that exact moment, his pure devotion moves the heavens. The ground literally cracks open, and fresh bamboo shoots pop right out. He brings them home, makes the soup, and boom, his mom is cured. Heaven came through. Oh, it gets even more extreme. Osho's stepmother, who isn't even nice to him, wants fresh fish in the middle of winter. The river is frozen solid. So what does he do? He takes off all his clothes and lies down on the ice, hoping his body heat will melt a hole. And what do you know? It works. The ice melts and 2 carp just leap out of the water for him. His willingness to literally freeze for his stepmother's request is rewarded with a miracle. You're definitely seeing the pattern now, right? But the stories don't just stop with helpful miracles. This is where they push the idea of filial piety to its most shocking and, frankly, pretty disturbing conclusions. These are the ones you don't forget. Yeah, these are the tales that really push the logic to its breaking point. They're almost like moral shock therapy, designed to be so extreme that the lesson about where your ultimate loyalty has to be is just burned into your mind forever. And that brings us to the story of Kakukyo. His family is incredibly poor. He's got an elderly mother and a young son. The problem is, his mom loves her grandson so much, she keeps giving him her own food, and now she's starving. Kakukyo has to make an absolutely unthinkable choice. And here's the chilling logic he lays out for his wife.
He says, "We can always have another child, but we will never have another mother." And with that grim calculation, he decides they have to bury their son alive so that his mother will have enough food to survive.
But here's the twist. Just as he starts digging the grave for his own son, his shovel hits something hard. It's a pot of solid gold, a gift from heaven. The message was clear. His willingness to make that ultimate sacrifice was enough. The cosmos stepped in, rewarded his intention, and saved everyone.
And this isn't a one-off theme either. In another story, a girl named Yo Kyo and her father are attacked by a tiger. Without a second thought, she throws herself in front of the beast to save him. Her act of piety is so pure, so powerful, it actually scares the tiger away.
So, this all raises a massive question. Why? Why tell these incredibly extreme, unsettling stories? What was the point? And why in the world were they so popular for centuries?
Well, these stories weren't some dusty, forgotten texts. They were bestsellers. Especially in Japan from the late 1500s on, they were everywhere. They were even put into anthologies that were specifically marketed as being beneficial for women to read. What they really do is give us this incredible window into what a culture deeply valued: family hierarchy, duty, and this idea of absolute sacrifice for your parents.
You know, it's easy for us to look back at these stories and just see them as extreme, but it does leave you with a fascinating question to think about. What are the absolute virtues our modern stories, our movies, our TV shows are teaching us? What ideals are we pushing to their most dramatic and unforgettable conclusions today?